Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another round of this A Racing League season. I believe we are on round 9 of the championship. Round 9. We're very much nearly at the halfway stage now. So, really getting into the competitive end of this season. A lot of people's places in the championships starting to take place as we're waiting for the rest of the grid to form up, as we're having drivers enter the lobby. We should be on for quite a full lobby actually today, hopefully. But we'll have a quick look at the it's obviously the equal tier, the equal drivers championship, after the last round at Silverstone, which was actually really quite thrilling, to be fair. We had quite the battle of, well, it was the equal tier anyway. Majority of it was the in wet running. Well, quite a few drivers opting for different strategies, opting for the no stops compared to the one stop. And that resulted in Luca, actually. I believe it was his debut in the A Racing League. In the A Racing League. His debut, actually taking the win. Absolutely brilliant stuff from him. What it meant in terms of the championship fight up top, Tycho actually extended his lead just a little bit. He finished fourth off the podium, which is actually the first time he's finished off the podium in the first race he's completed in. He's been finishing in the top two positions, I think. Very consistent from him this season. But it's the first time he's finished off the podium this season in a race that he has finished. He finished in fourth, and Don't Blink, his nearest challenger, only managing to get P6. So losing out 4 points there, but that has just widened the gap to, let's have a look, 24 points, I believe. Yeah, 24 points. So just under a race victory separates the top two of the championship, but it's still quite a gap indeed. Tycho doing a really good job of extending that lead. The past four races, he's managed to continuously outscore Don't Blink. So he'll be looking for more of the same again. But as for where we are actually in the calendar, we're in Belgium. Absolutely stunning racetrack. One of my personal favourites, up there with the likes of Silverstone, Monza. Very historically rich in the F1 world, and should enable very good racing. Should enable very, very good racing. That is, unless the weather takes a part in this weekend. I feel like that's kind of what happened last weekend. Silverstone normally produced some thrilling action, but with the wet, it sort of dampened, quite literally, spirits a little bit in terms of the competitive action. But yeah, Belgium or Spa, being one of the, in fact, the longest race circuit on the calendar. Qualifying lap times should be in and around the mid to low 140s, you'd imagine, 143, 142 possibly, for your top drivers. So very, very long lap here. As a result, only having 22 racing laps. Standard racing weekend, just the short qualifying session preceded by the 22 lap race. So yeah, should hopefully be a very interesting race. I say that every single weekend because, and to be fair, it usually develops. We've had a thrilling season thus far. We are, as I mentioned, getting very close to. I've actually forgotten how many rounds we've got. We've got yeah, we've got 18 rounds, so we are pretty much bang on halfway through the season thus far. So yeah, going to be in thrilling back end of the championship. You would have thought. So let's quickly just give a overview of the championship standings as we are ticking down the minutes towards the qualifying session. So, as I've already alluded to, Tycho leads the way. He is currently running first in the championship. Don't Blink just behind him, 24 points behind, running in second. Then we've got the second Red Bull of Run Through the T. He currently he's currently third place in the championship. A little bit of a distance between him and his teammate Don't Blink of about 28 points, I'd imagine. So, looking to be a two-horse race for the championship, what's sort of shaping up to be, but there's still plenty of time, plenty of points to be won for people to regain ground. Then we've got Kurt, who is actually marked as a reserve for this season, but whenever he has raced, he has tended to do very, very well indeed. He finds himself fourth, shared on points actually with Run Through the T, so both on 79 points. Then we've got the First Williams of Kiwi. He's currently in fifth place on 65 points. Then just behind him, his teammate Specdodo. Really been impressed with the Williams drivers this season. I say it every single weekend because it is true. Really, really impressed with them. Obviously newcomers to this league this season, shown great consistency and great speed. They currently operate fifth and sixth. Then we've got another pairing, the Alfa Romeos, GSR Riles and Legendary Louis in seventh and eighth. It's a case of what could have been for Legendary Louis because he started off the season absolutely phenomenally, but he has only taken part in 3 racing weekends this season. Obviously, attendance has been a little bit of an issue on that part, so that's why he only finds himself in 8th. And GSR Riles turned up for most events, good consistent finishing or points finishes. You see there, 5th, 6th, 5th, 5th. Really, really good consistent driving there. So obviously finishing just outside the points last time out. Hopefully he can rectify that. We've got Aeromich in 9th, who is actually done really well since regularly joining the weekends this season. Obviously missed the first 4 races, but then has got a 4th, a 2nd, a DNF, a 5th, and a 9th. So again, another driver who has shown great pace, great consistency, a few standout drives within there, especially that 2nd place in Monaco. So yeah, he'll be looking to make his way further up the order. Then we've got TB in 10th, again another reserve. Has had some issues this season. I know that personally with his wheel and stuff, but if he can possibly get that sorted out and send a few more races, I'm sure he'll climb up the table, but he is currently operating in 10th. Then we've got Jordster in 11th, a driver who I feel like has really improved this season. Has had a few shaky results, few outside the points finishes, but then has had some great finishes as well. A 4th in Monaco, a 5th last time out in Silverstone. Shown really good pace in qualifying, so yeah, he'll be definitely one to want to improve. Same as Ajax as well. Had a couple of 6th place finishes, 5th place finishes as well towards the beginning of the season, but then lately creeped out of the points, a 14th, a 14th, DNF and a 12th. Yeah, he'll be looking to turn his fortunes around. Then we had Luca, who I've previously mentioned, actually won last time out on his debut. Be interesting to see if he can attend this weekend again, if he can continue that momentum. Then we've had Time Lord, who has actually been rather very consistent point scorer, just unfortunately been on the lower end of the points. We've got a ninth place finish, three seventh place finishes in a row, and a 10th place. So again, someone who's consistently enough scoring points. Just hopefully for him, he can push on and push up towards that top 5. Then we've got Coenzig, who has missed quite a few races this season, but again, when he has finished with fairly good points haul. We've had Testarossa, who has attended every single race this year. Again, tends to be towards the back end of the lower points, just outside the points as well. Then we've got a few other reserves who have made a couple one-off appearances, but we should be close to starting. We've only got 11 drivers. Thought they would have been more, if I'm brutally honest. Just checking to see where everyone is. Right, it looks like we are readying up. And we will be proceeding with 11 drivers on the grid. And here we go then. Spa, a circuit loved by many. Very fast, high-speed circuit for the most part. On throttle for the majority of your lap. Absolutely brilliant racetrack, it must be said. So it'll be interesting to see how this 18-minute qualifying session handles. And straight off the bat, we are in wet conditions. The rain seems to have followed us from Silverstone, not quite gone away. And this will be very challenging for the drivers indeed. Intermediate conditions, so not quite the full wets that we saw in qualifying last time out, but still nonetheless. Drivers going to be pushing hard, and it's going to be very, very hard for the drivers in this session. But we're just seeing one of the Mercs getting ready to go out. Like we saw in the qualifying session last time out. Might be seeing quite a few long runs here. They tends to happen in these wet qualifying sessions. Drivers loading up with a few laps of fuel because the track will be constantly evolving, constantly changing. It doesn't really seem to make sense to just go out for the one lap. You might as well stay out there, get the tyres up to working temperature, evaluate the track's conditions, and just set lap after lap. So don't be surprised to see most of our drivers currently do that in this session, but it is going to be Spec Dodo who is leading the drivers away. It looks like we've already got some drivers eager to get on with their warm-up laps. But yeah, we're going to stay on board with Spec Dodo here. I think everyone is going to want to try and get out. Well, I would have thought, to be honest, most drivers would be willing to get out as early as possible. Doesn't seem to be the case. Seems to be half of the grid seems to be quite content just sitting back in the pits. But yeah, it's going to be the Williams off Spec Dodo to cross the finish line or set the first lap time of this session, it seems. You can see him really trying to just evaluate the level of grip here, using quite a lot of the curbing actually. I know it's only an out lap, probably won't be using so much of it on his push lap, but yeah, obviously a driver not really lacking for confidence at the minute is Spec Dodo, as I've alluded to. Very, very impressive this season, so I'd imagine he'd be up there challenging certainly with the couple of front rows of the grid, but he's just going to set his lap up here now. So we're going to stay on board with him. He's going to go down onto the first corner, pick his braking point, shift all the way down to second gear, make sure the back end doesn't spin out on exit. He does quite well to hold it actually. And now he approaches Radion at a... I mean, this corner is normally flat out, but in the wet, you can probably hear just a very faint lift off there from the Williams as he negotiates Eau Rouge. And yeah, he's going flying it down this back straight, and what does he post for the first sector? It's a 32.3, obviously going to be a purple because it's the first one we've seen thus far, but it is immediately bettered by the Mercedes of Tychopath behind him. But we're going to stay on board here with the Williams driver as he negotiates this downhill section, shifts down into third gear, keeping the revs constant, making sure not to have any spikes on throttle, as that can really damage his lap time, especially in these slippery wet conditions. Now, is he going to shift down a gear? Yes, he is, down into sixth. Again, very, very carefully lifting off throttle and gently going back onto full. And he's going to just not quite touch the apex on the left-hand side, or right-hand side here, and as he negotiates this left-hander, just approaching this end of the second sector now. Going to be a total time of a 1 minute 23.8. We'll see how that stacks up with the rest of the pack. It's currently better. Well, it's better than what Tycho has managed behind him. So it seems like Spec Dodo here is finding time here compared to the championship leader, who is currently on a lap also behind him. But he's going to come up to the bus stop chicane here. He's going to shift all the way down into third gear, decides to stick with it, doesn't go to second and chance the revs off the traction. But here we are then. Spec Dodo crosses the line, a 154.5, respectable first time lap, and it's bettered. Well, it's not better, sorry. It's 4/10 of a second better than our current championship leader. So maybe that is a very, very good lap time from the Williams of Spec Dodo. We're going to try and see if we can catch Jordster as he crosses the finish line. In fact, no, he's going to just tee up one of his laps, so that's not a representative lap time. GSR Riles crosses the finish line, a 156.2. Lacking a little bit of pace there is the man driving for the Alfa Romeo team at the minute. Don't blink here, the championship, closest championship challenger to Tychopath, slots himself into second place, can't quite beat the time of Spec Dodo. In fact, he's actually out by a thousandth of a second. Can't get much closer than that, but nevertheless we'll have to settle for second place. Aero Mitch in the Ferrari slots into fourth with a 155.4, half a second down on the top three. At the moment, we've got Ajax here just setting up his lap time. We've got Kiwi also on a lap. We've got, I think, MX Testarossa is just coming up towards the end of his lap, so we'll stay on board with him. We'll see. In fact, Koenigsegg there, 154.4, sorry. Completely missed him as he crossed the finish line, but that is provisional pole there for the Haas drive. Absolutely brilliant effort from Koenigsegg as MX Testarossa crosses the line. A 156.0 puts him currently in P6. Time Lord is just setting up a lap time at the minute. I'm just going to try and catch Tychopath, currently a second quicker than his previous previous lap time. This could be provisional pole for the championship leader, as it's to be probably expected on this lap. There we are, 153.6, the first person into the 1 minute 53s. Really, really good stuff there from Tyker Path. We've got, who else have we got? Have we got Jordster? Yeah, he's just negotiating the bus stop chicane. Where will this lap time put the Haas driver? He puts him in 7th place for the time being. We've got a spin there, I think, from MX Testarossa. Hopefully he doesn't harm the lap time of Time Lord all too much. I don't think he did. So that's good news for him. We've got the Mercedes of Ajax there, just finishing a lap. Don't Blink actually has retired onto the pits. I'd expected him to go out for a few runs there, so quite surprising there by the Red Bull driver, as Mitch just crosses the line, doesn't quite improve on his lap time, so he'll have to go again. Then we've got the Mercedes of Ajax there. Where will this lap time put him? Puts him into the top 6 with a 155.1, half a second down off the top 5, but definitely a decent lap time there to build on for the Mercedes driver. Now we've got the Alpine of Time Lord just negotiating the 3rd sector. I think we're just going to see Haas, in fact we've got Koenigsegg also retiring onto the pits fairly early. Tyker Path is matching his times that he is currently setting, so Tyker Path here clearly in a league of his own in terms of where he is with the car. But we're going to see Time Lord just cross the line. Where does this put the Alpine? It puts him into 8th place on a 155.8. We're going to go back onto the Tyker Path here as he actually decides to pit on that lap. Specdodo, though, can he possibly challenge the lap time of Tyker Path? He does a very good job of it. Posts a 154.1, which was good enough for 2nd place, but is immediately bettered by his teammate, who does a 153.9. So within 3/10 of the reigning world champ. Yeah, very good effort there from the Williams drivers. We've got some movement as GSR Riles just posts a 154.9, puts himself up into the top 6. I think we had a improved lap from Jordster as well. Yeah, we did. A 155.4. Look at the confidence he took through Radion and Eau Rouge there. Absolutely brilliant stuff from the Haas there. Very, very good, quick indeed. We've got Ajax here, who is actually invalidated on this lap, so he's probably going to be retiring into the pitch. Yes, he does. And Aeromich doesn't actually have a front wing, so I don't think he's going to be able to continue without one of those. So we're going to have to see him retire into the pits. And I think most people are out or just finishing their first round of laps. We've got Don't Blink here, who only did the 1 run, so he's currently on an out lap and will be looking to improve on his 154.5, which is currently good enough for 5th place. Has a little bit of a gap of 4/10 to GSR Riles behind him, and is only a 10th slower than Koenigsegg in front of him. So Don't Blink here will certainly be looking to improve his position on these next couple of laps. We've actually got Kiwi just retiring into the pit, and so does Specdodo as well. So both Williams drivers retiring into the pits. See, we've got anyone here just about to complete a lap time. No, the Haas of Jordster just a retreat into the pits. We've got GSR Riles, who I think is just setting up for another lap. Don't Blink has just started his lap. We've got Time Lord, who has improved by nearly 4/10 of a second just in the first sector. So very good rate of improvement for him. He might be looking to improve his position of 10th. What about Don't Blink? What can he do for the first sector? It's just over a 10th of a second improvement, so good enough to put him in 4th place at the minute, but he's going to be hoping he can find more time as the lap progresses. We're going to go back on board with Time Lord here, as he is just in the middle of negotiating this tricky middle section, well away from the curb on the right hand side there. Same with the left hand curb. You want to try and avoid him as much as possible to try and avoid a potential spin. Time Lord here finding a lot of time, nearly a second up on his time at the moment. Will put him around about 5th or 6th. So let's hope he can continue this rate of improvement as he keeps the... In fact, actually, no, he shifts down a gear on that fast left-hander. Normally flat through, but obviously in these wet, tricky conditions, doesn't have the confidence in the car to go flat out there. But yeah, he's just negotiated the bus stop chicane. Where will this lap time put Time Lord into 6th place with a 1:54.6? Don't Blink also improving on his lap time, nearly 0.3 of a second. That puts him just shy of 3rd place. But he's still got the chicane, final chicane to negotiate. Let's see what time he's found in there. A little bit of time, actually. Improves by 0.5 of a second. Does actually jump Spec Dodo into 3rd place. You've got to feel like he still has a little bit of time left in that Red Bull, but Don't Blink there, doing himself or promoting himself onto the 2nd row of the grid. I think we've just got drivers just completing their outlaps here. MXS Rossa was on a quick lap, but unfortunately for him has invalidated. But yeah, most drivers now just have seemed to just be on their outlaps or just sort of setting themselves up. But we're going to go on board with GSR Riles as I think he's the furthest away, furthest along his flying lap. In fact, he's just backed out of it, so he's obviously made some form of mistake there. Yeah, we've got just over 4 minutes of this qualifying session remaining, so the thing is with these wet sessions, everyone is such on different running plans. I don't quite know who is on a fast lap and who isn't, but I definitely know that Ajax is on a quick lap because he's 2.5 tenths up on his previous best qualifying time. Not quite enough to improve his position thus far, but hopefully he can find a bit more lap time as he pushes the car around this historical racetrack. He's just going to try and shift down the gear, lift off the throttle, and then get it back down again as soon as possible. Try and carry as much momentum as he can in this tight, twisty section here. Much like Time Lord, as we saw on his lap. In fact, actually, he's taking a little bit more curb than the Alpine driver, so obviously risking it a little bit more. He needs to try and find that extra lap time on his lap, and it is rewarding him for the time being. He's nearly 0.7 of a second quicker than his lap time. That could put him around 5th or 6th place. So he just needs to try and continue this pace that he's finding in these last couple of corners. Again, shifts down a gear onto the fast left-hander and just approaches the bus stop chicane, slams on the brakes, tries to not lock up, does a very good job of it. Again, hitting the apexes left and right. Back on the power as quickly as possible. Where is this lap put Ajax? In 5th place. Absolutely brilliant lap time of a 1:54.2. We've got Koenigsegg currently improving very, very slightly on his first sector. We've got Spec Dodo there also up, but nearly losing the back end there. Absolutely great control there from the Williams driver. The back end not wanting anything to do with it, but Spec Dodo there doing a great job of keeping it in line. We're going to go back on board with Koenigsegg here, who is nearly a 10th up on his previous best time. Not quite enough to take back the 5th place he previously held on before Ajax improved. But can he find that missing 10th or two in this final chicane as he puts the power down, puts the ERS down all the way to the line? Koenigsegg improves, but not by enough, stays in 6th place. Specdodo there, nearly 4/10 of a second, well, 3.5 tenths up on his previous best lap time, which would be enough for second place at the minute. The Williams drivers really loving these tricky conditions. Can he possibly find the lap time he's wanting in this final chicane? It looks like Tychopath has just come out of the pit, so about to say, I didn't think he was going to set a final lap time there, but there it is, Specdodo with a provisional pole time of a 1:53.6. That puts the pressure back on the Mercedes driver and also on the his teammate Kiwi, and Don't Blink there, who would have had his pole aspirations as well heading into this qualifying session. Koenigsegg just again improving in the first sector. We've got Time Lord on an outlap. GSR Riles, I think, is on an outlap as well. Aero Mitch currently improving on his lap time, only by 0.5 tenth, but hopefully he can find more time as the lap progresses. We've got MX Testarossa nearly 3/10 of a second up in the first sector alone. He could be on for quite a good lap of improvement for him. We've got Kiwi just starting his lap. Specdodo actually finding more time, doing back-to-back flying laps here in the first sector. So Specdodo here seems to be the man to beat. We've got most people just starting their flying laps now, so we're going to stay on board here with the provisional pole sitter. And oh, look at the back end, he loses it. You could just see he was pushing all the way to the max. Obviously, oh, he's actually beached here, it seems, on the, it's actually really, he's found himself in a really awkward position, yeah, and he's retired. Yeah, that was really unlucky there from Specdodo, actually, to be fair. And his teammate has retired as well. Oh, his teammate has retired. It looks like he's definitely lost a front wing, but what has happened to the Williams drivers, who were looking so good and so quick? They've just retired on their last flying laps, unfortunately. Well, as it stands, Specdodo currently is still on pole position. Don't Blink here can't improve. I don't actually think he made it to the line, so really unlucky for him. He could start 5th at best. Koenigsegg doesn't seem to be on a flying lap, so he won't be improving on his fourth place. Tychopath currently just negotiating the first sector. Ajax here, what's the rate of improvement? He's found 0.8 of improvement in the middle, well, first two sectors. That could challenge, potentially, the front row of the grid. We're going to stay on board here with the Mercedes driver. What a lap this is turning out to be from the Mercedes of Ajax here. Can he try and keep that level of improvement as we negotiate the final chicane? He's got to try and keep it tidy. Not try and spin out. Jordster improves to 7th place. Is this going to be provisional pole? Yes, it is for Ajax. What a final lap time from the Mercedes driver. It's a 1:53.2. And it has currently put his teammate under all sorts of pressure. He's currently on a flying lap. He's a 10th quicker than what he managed in the first sector. But could we see a surprise pole here from the Mercedes of Ajax? We've got Mitch currently improving on his lap time by 0.2 of a second. We've got a Time Lord who improves his time, pushes Don't Blink further down the grid. Don't Blink not really having the qualifying session he would have wanted, as he looks to potentially challenge for the title. We've got MX Testarossa. He crosses the finish line. He does not improve, stays 11th. Aero Mitch does improve. He improves to 8th place. So all eyes turn to the Mercedes of Tychopath. Can he bite back? Yes, he can. A 1:52.7 to put half a second in between him and his teammate. What a final flying lap there from the Mercedes driver. But both Mercedes there really showing their final pace when it counted most. And what a ending to the qualifying session that was. Wow, absolutely brilliant action there. It looks like Williams had it for a minute. Specdodo was going quick, so was his teammate Kiwi, but both encountered issues on their final flying lap, and that just left the door wide open to the Mercedes to clinch a 1-2 in qualifying. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And Don't Blink is all the way down in 7th place. So while he sees his championship rival take pole, he is facing a 4th row start. Not ideal for the man in 2nd place in the championship. Not ideal at all. The wet really not doing him any favours. But there is your official classification for the qualifying in the Belgian Grand Prix. Tycho taking pole with a brilliant last lap to out his teammate by half a second, who himself did an absolutely brilliant lap time. To put himself in second place. Specdodo and Kiwi, as I said, was really shown good pace, but encountered issues. They start third and fourth respectively. Coenzig will start fifth. Time Lord with a brilliant last lap as well to promote himself up into sixth place. Don't Blink, I'm sure, will be disappointed with seventh. And that I couldn't see the rest of the grid because their time went out. But yeah, really, really intriguing qualifying session that. Yeah, Don't Blink saying that he missed his last run by 2 seconds. Sorry. Yeah, really, really unfortunate for him. He would have definitely had some more pace. You would have felt it, and that has really cost him. It looks to be a dry start, but it looks to be cloudy and looks to be overcast. So we might still yet see some rain at some point in the race, but. Yeah, hopefully Don't Blink can recover from his failed qualifying session and produce a good race performance. But the drivers now just looking at potential strategies. I'd imagine most will be starting on either the medium or the hard tyre, but we'll wait and see as we wait for the lights to go out. So the formation lap will be getting underway. Let's have a look to see what sort of tyres everyone will be starting on. So, as I suspected, most of the grid, in fact the entire top 8, will be starting on the medium compound tyre. We've got GSR, Riles and Jordster starting on the hards in 9th and 10th, but we have got MX Testarossa starting on the softs right at the back of the grid. So he is obviously running a completely different strategy. I suppose it's not entirely surprising, given that he is obviously starting right at the back. So we'll be hoping to sort of change the grid order at some stage, going different to everybody else in the hopes of this alternate strategy benefiting him in his pursuits up the field. But yeah, bit of an ambitious one that from Testarossa. Hopefully it works out for him. But yeah, the top 8 all starting on the medium compound tyre, and then we've got GSR, Riles and Jordster on the hard. Should be a simple one-stop strategy. That is, of course, if we don't see any rain. I think I saw some of the drivers reporting that it is meant to be a completely dry race, so hopefully that is the case. Although we wouldn't mind seeing a few drops here and there just to really confuse the drivers and push them into a really interesting strategy. But that will remain. That will remain to see if that happens. But yeah, they 2 Mercedes starting or locking out the front row. 2 Williams in behind, and will be feeling that they've definitely got a chance here to at least get one of their cars on the podium, if not possibly challenge for the win. Koenigsegg doing very well to get a 5th place finish, as is Time Lord doing that lap time in 6th. But yeah, all eyes will be on Domeblink to see if he can improve on what was quite a very disappointing qualifying session, actually. As I said, just missed out on setting a final lap time by 2 seconds. So you definitely feel like he's got a lot more pace than 7th place. And then we'll just see if the other drivers will be anywhere near competitive for points. But all the drivers now have lined up on their grid positions. So here we are then, 2, 3 red lights, 4, 5. And away we go. The lights are on for quite a substantial amount of time, but it looks to be a decent getaway for Tychopath. The 2 Williams not getting away very well, it seems. We've got a Haas diving up the inside of Koenigsegg. He's made a brilliant start, as has Aero Mitch, all the way from 8th. Is up into 3rd place. What a lap that has been from the Ferrari thus far. Koenigsegg up into 4th. Domeblink up into 5th as well. Both Williamses have had a nightmare start from 3rd and 4th. Now 6th and 8th. We've got Testarossa. I said he was going alternate to everybody else. He's gotten from 11th straight up into 7th here, causing 1 or 2 issues from the drivers. We've got GSR Rouse making a move up on Time Lord, who hasn't had a great start either. Dropping from 6th all the way down to 9th place. But yeah, all good in the Mercedes camp out in front, keeping that 1-2. But Aeromich, what a start he's had. All the way from 8th place, he finds himself in 3rd on the first lap alone. Don't Blink making up a few places that he would have wanted. We've got some moves here. MX Testarossa and Kiwi making contact. MX Testarossa is spun round, and unfortunately for him, finds himself right back at the grid. Unfortunately, again for him, we've got Time Lord making a move there on the Williams of Spec Dodo. The Williams here really struggling on the opening lap. Kiwi making contact with Testarossa, and Spec Dodo seems to be going backwards. But yeah, really unlucky there for Testarossa. It looked like it was just an inevitable collision as they negotiated the tricky left-handed corner. But that has found him at the back of the grid. But both Mercedes here look to be pulling away from the rest of the pack. We've got Dome Blink here really wanting to get a move on Koenigsegg, who's really outbroke himself into the bus stop chicane. We've got Spec Dodo there making up a place on the Alpine of Time Lord, who seems to be fighting back. A brilliant switchback there from the Alpine driver, but Spec Dodo has the inside line and will once again retake that challenge. But here we are, Time Lord again performing the switchback, and once again has that a 7th place. But Spec Dodo is going to fight back through Radion. Absolutely brilliant stuff, but the fight isn't over yet. We've got Don't Blink here also promoting himself up into the top 4, powering past the Haas, who just can't cope with the straight line speed of that Red Bull. But it looks like Spec Dodo there has made his move past their Time Lord official and has promoted himself past up into 7th place. But Don't Blink there, critical to get that move done early on to try and lose as little time as possible, and he can now focus on chasing down the Ferrari of Mitch ahead of him, and more importantly the 2 Mercedes. In 1st and 2nd, it looks like Ajax here currently having a little bit more pace than his Mercedes counterpart, but he is burning a lot of ERS compared to his teammate. But nonetheless, he finds himself half a second down on his teammate, but more importantly within DRS range. Keeps all the possibilities for him later on in the race open. But yeah, Don't Blink now can focus on trying to improve his position and try and catch the Ferrari of Aeromich in front of him. We've got GSR Riles and Jordster, both on the hard tyres, both having clean starts, but hopefully will be, well, for them, keeping their noses clean, and this is all about the long game for those two, trying to elongate that first stint as much as possible. And yeah, look at Ajax there, currently really doing the business on his teammate. In fact, that gap is now, look at that, only 0.4 of a second. In fact, Tykepath's got to be careful here, because he is losing, might be the possibility of him losing the lead here, although Ajax has burned through pretty much all of his ERS, and Tykepath has a lot left in the tank. Yeah, it looks like Tykepath is safe from his teammate for the time being. Don't Blink here, just not quite being able to pull away from Koenigsegg, who is having to defend himself from the Williams of Kiwi. Is he going to maybe try and dive and move down the inside onto this corner here? No, he cannot. It goes to the corner who that has no name. No, not a move down there, but he indeed finds himself a 3-second time penalty so early on in the race. Not ideal for the Williams driver there. But yeah, Ajax there really burning through all of his ERS just to try and keep up with his teammate. He's going to try and that's going to buy him back later on in the stint. If he could just try and keep within DRS range, it might not be so bad. But yeah, it's not too sure that was entirely wise there from Ajax. But we've got a Kiwi here who's really interested in trying to get past Koenigsegg. Obviously, both Williams drivers having very poor starts. They did start this race 3rd and 4th, but once again, Koenigsegg not getting his braking into the bus stop chicane entirely right, and that sort of offsets himself in terms of the drive out of it compared to his rivals. But he's managed to keep the gap to Kiwi and keep the position, more importantly, thus far, although he's going to have a hard time of it as we negotiate Radion and Eau Rouge, as he shouldn't have the DRS from Don't Blink in front of him. No, he doesn't, and that's going to leave him very vulnerable to the Williams of Kiwi, who's using all of his ERS. And in fact, we've got some movement further up ahead. Ajax and Aeromich battling it out, but there we go. Koenigsegg and Kiwi again, but making contact for the first time. But again, Kiwi finds himself making contact with a driver, and on this time, unfortunately, not for the benefit of himself, and that is now him at the back of the grid. Yeah, the Williams driver's really not having a good time. Again, one of them situations where I think contact was inevitable, and yeah, can't really put the blame on either driver there, it seems. But yeah, really, really unfortunate for Kiwi, who has unfortunately found himself at the back of the grid. But yeah, we did see a momentary change of positions between Aeromich and Ajax, who has just lost DRS from his teammate. So that's possibly why he can't rely on that slot in the rear wing to fend off the attack from the Ferrari, and obviously he has no ERS to try and combat that as well. And yeah, Mitch is looking very interested as he brakes very, very late, and that has enabled Don't Blink actually to close the gap to just over a second as well. So this will only be benefiting the Red Bull driver if these two have a fight in front of him. I'm going to stay on board here with Aeromich, as he's just within the DRS range, just within the drag reduction system range here. As he goes up, Radion and Eau Rouge carries a lot more speed than the Mercedes, and yeah, Ajax here is going to have a hard time defending this one. Aeromich just breezes past, absolutely no fight for that. In fact, we did have a yellow flag there. I wonder if that was for Kiwi. Not too sure. But yeah, absolutely brilliant move from, well, I say brilliant move. He didn't really have to do too much about that, did Mitch. Just had so much more straight line speed, and yeah, that has seen him move up into second place. What a race this is turning out to be for Mitch. Started 8th, now finds himself in second and only 2 seconds off the lead as Tychopath looks to extend his advantage over the rest of the field. And yeah, Kiwi now again having another spin, really not having the race that he would have envisioned starting in 4th, obviously. But yeah, now this puts Ajax in a bit of an uncomfortable situation, as he does currently have the DRS to defend himself against Don't Blink, but I mean, he needs to really try and rely on that if he has any chance of keeping or staying ahead of the Red Bull driver. He's doing quite a good job of it so far, but Don't Blink here would be looking to possibly get by both of these drivers, as his fight will be fully focused on the man currently leading this Grand Prix. Aspect Dodo actually sets the fastest lap of the race with a 1:47.5. But yeah, we're going to stay on board with Ajax here to see if he can get any sort of drive on the Ferrari. It actually shifts down halfway up through Radion there, and that has actually cost him a lot of speed and time to the Red Bull behind him of Don't Blink. I think we're seeing why Ajax here is really struggling in terms of power compared to other cars down that straight, as he's having to lift off fairly heavily through Radion, and that puts him in a very awkward position in terms of trying to defend when cars have got the DRS behind him. But he's managed to hold on that occasion. Aeromich doing a good job of just keeping tabs with Tycho, only losing about a 10th or 2 this past lap, but Tycho doing an excellent job out front, just managing his tyres and managing the ERS as well, which will definitely help him later on in the stint. But yeah, Ajax really now all over the back of the Ferrari of Aeromich. He's possibly maybe thinking about making a move down into the bus stop chicane, maybe. We're going to stay on board with him, but I don't think he's close enough to quite do that. So yeah, this is what Don't Blink didn't want. He didn't want to be caught in a sort of mini DRS battle or train that is sort of like halted his progress through the field. He would have quite ratherly hoped that Aeromich would have pulled out of DRS zone from Ajax by now, but unfortunately for him it has not been the case, and Ajax will once again maybe try and think about making a move, but I mean, as we've seen before, let's just listen. Yeah, he's shifting down and lifting quite heavily through Radion, obviously experiencing quite a lot of a unrear stability here, but this is giving Don't Blink a chance here to possibly make a move around the outside. Ajax is going to have to try and outbrake himself, which doesn't put him in all too great a position through the lines of the next couple of corners, but does well to hold it off. But that is going to be a big issue there for Ajax, as he just doesn't have the rear stability, it seems, through Eau Rouge and Radion to carry the momentum required to defend against the cars behind him. So yeah, Ajax has found himself in a bit of a awkward position here, I must say. He just needs to try and keep in the DRS range from Mitch for as long as humanly possible. But the GSR Wiles and Jordster doing a fairly good job actually of keeping tabs of the cars ahead of them, only just under 5 seconds behind the pack on the medium compound tyre. So obviously they're experiencing quite a lot of hurt at this stage of the Grand Prix in terms of lap time, but come towards the second stint and towards the end of this first stint as well, they'll be obviously on the quicker medium tyre, and they can sort of try and fight their way back up the grid. But once again, Ajax is Going to try and use the DRS to try and defend, but I'll tell you what, Don't Blink is looking a lot closer than he has done to the back of that Mercedes, who, again, Don't Blink is absolutely flat out. Ajax, we know, isn't, and that just leaves him too vulnerable on the main straight. And, yeah, look at the amount of speed and momentum Ajax loses having to lift off through Radeon. It's really not ideal for him, and that has meant that he is now off the podium places and is now having to settle for 4th place. Don't Blink continuing his resurgence through the field and now finds himself in 3rd. Will definitely be eyeing up that Ferrari of Aeromich ahead of him, and then there'll only be a couple of seconds gap between him and Tycho, but it is worth pointing out Tycho has still got a full bar of VRS to deploy, so he's clearly in a management phase of this stint. He can afford to be, having been comfortably leading this race. So we'll see if that works to Tycho's advantage towards around the pit stop window. Maybe he can try and extend this stint by a lap or two. But yeah, really doing a good job here, it must be said, is Tycho at managing this race. But we're just going to go on board here with Don't Blink. I think he's just fallen out of DRS range. In fact, we've actually got Ajax pitting. So Ajax has bit the bullet early and has decided to pit on lap 9. In fact, I think, did we see the Ferrari pit crew out there as well? Obviously, Aeromich didn't decide to pit in the end, so a bit of a weird one, that. Yeah, Ajax there, kind of throwing the gauntlet to the drivers around him now. Don't Blink and Aeromich. Obviously, Ajax there wanting to try and get the undercut nice and early. Obviously, we'll have to try and get them hard tyres up to temperature, but we'll see if either Aeromich or Don't Blink react to this, and it'll be interesting to see. It looks like Tychopath is decided to push a little bit now, using a little bit of his ERS, and the gap behind him has stretched to 3.5 seconds. So I'm expecting to see Tychopath maybe in this lap. Obviously, given that his teammate has pitted the previous one. So yeah, I'd expect Tychopath to come in. But yeah, Don't Blink not quite being able to get ahead of Mitch thus far, but we'll see if either one of them decides to try and cover off the threat of an undercut from the Mercedes of Ajax there. As I said, Ajax is going to be spending most of this lap trying to get them tyres up to temperature, so if they pit now, they shouldn't be under too much threat from the Mercedes, and obviously given that they were ahead of him prior to his pit stop, it should make it all the more likely that they're going to come out ahead of him again. So we're going to see Tychopath, in fact, doesn't pit, and neither does Aeromich, and neither does Don't Blink. So all the top three deciding not to respond to the early pit stop of Ajax. Koenigsegg and Time Lord do. They clearly decide or think that this is the time to pit, but the top three deciding not to cover off the early pit of the Mercedes of Ajax. How crucial will that be come the next round of pit stops? We've got Don't Blink here sizing up a move of the Ferrari of Aeromich. Aeromich is going to try and defend around the outside, and defends really well. Holds his line brilliantly. Don't Blink has to back out of it, and yeah, Aeromich keeps hold of that second place, and we've got a yellow flag, it seems. Koenigsegg here actually jumping Ajax. I wonder if has Ajax got into a little bit of trouble there, because Koenigsegg definitely was behind him in the round of pit stops. Ajax here is going to fight back, dive down the inside, it seems, takes that place back, but yeah, that has really not worked out for the Mercedes driver. Yeah, I'm almost definitely sure Koenigsegg was behind him on track. So the fact that Koenigsegg is so close in terms of position coming out of the pits, does mean that it was probably the right call for these three to continue on their merry way and try and get an extra lap of usage out of the hard tyres. And Tychopath again decides to continue on his way. Mitch bites the bullet, as does Don't Blink. I thought those two would have tried to differ each other, but Don't Blink decides to follow the Ferrari into the pits. So Tychopath continues on his way. We've got GSR, Riles and Jordster, who obviously started the race on the hard tyre. They continue on through and will take up the remaining podium places for the time being. Aero Mitch keeping ahead of the Red Bull of Don't Blink. But I'll tell you what, this will be quite close here coming out of the pits, because that is the Mercedes of Ajax just coming out of the pits now. So he slots in just behind the Ferrari and the Red Bull of Don't Blink. But don't forget, these two will have to try and get some heat into them tyres, whereas Ajax will already, his tyres will already be up to temperature. So this might make the Ferrari and Red Bull of Mitch and Don't Blink quite vulnerable to the Mercedes of Ajax in this first half of the lap. We're going to try and keep on board with him and see if Ajax can use that extra tyre temperature to his advantage. We can see him already pulling the gap to Don't Blink here. Is it going to be enough, I wonder, in the sort of like tight and twisty mechanical section? I don't think it is. His tyres should more or less be up to temperature now, so I think Ajax has sort of lost his chance. But yeah, that was a lot closer than what I first thought. So Ajax just missing out there, it seems, on potentially doing the undercut on both Don't Blink and Aero Mitch. And obviously the fact that Don't Blink and Aero Mitch stayed out for a few extra laps of mean they've got a couple of laps fresher tyre. Tychopath, our race leader, does eventually decide to pit. Obviously he will have the freshest tyres out of them all, but it will mean that GSR, Riles and Jordster should inherit GSR Riles should inherit the race lead, which I believe would be the first time this season, potentially. Although I say that, I think Tychopath is just going to come out ahead. No, he's just going to come out in second place. Not ideal for Tychopath. Maybe he can try and take that lead back. He's going to try and use the DRS to immediately get past him. Obviously, he is going to have to try and be wary because he is obviously got the cold tyres on. But no, he takes that lead straight back. Koenigsegg does make the move stick on Ajax, it seems, who is obviously we've seen struggling through Radion. But yeah, Tychopath takes back the lead that he momentarily lost to GSR Riles, and yeah, I think that has really cemented his strong position in this race to go on and win this Grand Prix. If he would have got caught up in the battle here between GSR Riles and Jordster, that might have thrown a spanner in the works for Mitch and Don't Blink. But the fact he's managed to clear them via his pit stop, then yeah, I think that has really sort of cemented his place. He really should be going on to win now. It's all about whether Don't Blink can get past the Ferrari of Mitch, and if he has any sort of pace to try and catch up to his championship rival. Yeah, Ajax here is just fallen back. We just saw him get overtaken by the Haas of Zig on the previous lap time, and he has now got the Williams of Specdodo all over the back of him. He's gonna try and defend going into the bus stop chicane as GSR Riles and Jordster come in for their pit stops. It'll be interesting to see how far behind they come out, and because they'll obviously have the medium compound tyre on, they'll be a lot quicker than everybody else on the racetrack, and their sort of late recovery drive sort of starts now, you feel like. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses. We saw Zig just post the fastest lap of the race, but we're going to stay on board with Specdodo here, as once again we see Ajax lose momentum through Radion as he has to lift off, and that gives an opportunity for the Williams of Specdodo. I think we've just seen Don't Blink and Aero Mitch battling out in front, but we're going to stay on board here on this battle, and oh, we've got a spin for Don't Blink. Oh, I missed that. Obviously, I was watching the battle between Specdodo and Ajax here. But whatever happened between Aero Mitch and Don't Blink is ended up in Don't Blink spinning out and losing his entire front wing. I imagine it's a very similar situation that Zig and Kiwi, I think, found themselves in right at the beginning of the race. But obviously I missed that. I was on board with another battle. But what a blow that is to Don't Blink's title hopes. What was looked to be a certified podium, if not a potential second place. He is now looking at... Oh, well, he's going to be right at the back of the grid. He's going to be looking at a 10th place finish at best, it looks like. Such is the late nature of the incident in the Grand Prix. That is really, really unfortunate for Don't Blink there. Yeah, really, really hard luck on the Red Bull driver. But that is now, well, definitely cemented, I think, Tychopath's win out in front. It's just whether Aero Mitch can hold on to a second place. It's been an absolutely brilliant drive from him. As I said, it was a brilliant start from 8th all the way up into P3. And yeah, Don't Blink now just coming into the pits to change that front wing. But yeah, can he now just try and cement his second place? Obviously, I don't know if he'll have a penalty incoming for any potential incident. I'm assuming it was a very similar incident to what we saw early on in the Grand Prix. I think it was between Koenigsegg and Kiwi, where they just sort of like clashed wheels a little bit. But obviously I can't comment due to the fact that I haven't seen it. But yeah, Koenigsegg now is promoted up into the podium places in 3rd place. He might smell a potential second place here. Just over a second behind the Ferrari of Aero Mitch, as we see Time Lord and MX Esterossa battling it out in this section here. MX Esterossa defending his position very well, and he keeps his 8th place for the time being, but you'd have a feeling that Time Lord will be wanting to attack him again. Well, GSR Riles and Jordster, by the way, did come out in 6th and 7th place, so they have got a 12-second gap to Specdodo in 5th place, and they have got about 9 racing laps left. But we'll just have to try and keep an eye out on their pace on the medium compound tyre and see how it compares to the top 5 and see if there is any potential late push for a top 5 finish here for those two drivers. But yeah, we've got Tychopath just pulling out his gap out in front to just over 5 seconds. He should, from now, be going on to win this race. We've got Aero Mitch, who is quite comfortably, I mean, that gap is sort of stagnating of just over a second, 1.2 to 1.4 seconds to Koenigsegg. So Aero Mitch will feel like he's relatively safe, as Koenigsegg has other intentions to try and defend from the Mercedes of Ajax behind him. But this battle for the final podium place isn't necessarily over. From sort of like Mitch down to Specdodo in 5th, any of them could finish in any order. Such is their close nature in this race. I mean, we've got Mitch in 2nd and Specdodo in 5th being covered by 3 seconds, so anything can happen in these closing stages. And as I was just seeing there, talking, we saw Jordster pick up a 3-second time penalty. That puts him in danger of dropping a position or 2, but you would think, due to the fact that he's on the medium compound tyre, he should be able to pull a gap between the battling MX Esterossa and Time Lord, which this is a very intriguing battle, I must be said. Definitely the closest battle out on track at the minute. This is obviously for 8th and 9th place. This will be doing Don't Blink a favour to see if maybe these two can have a little bit of an incident or just continuously take time off each other and see if he can regain any points after his earlier spin. But yeah, George should be alright with that penalty, I would have imagined. He should have, but yeah, there we are. He's just pulled 3.2 seconds. I'm assuming that gap is going to continue to grow the more this pair battles. But we're going to stay on board with the Alpine here as he follows the Aston Martin all the way down this straight, up through Eau Rouge, up Radion, and yeah, look at the... I mean, there we are. Don't blink. Posting the fast lap of the race. He's clearly on a mission to try and salvage some more points. But Time Lord here moves on to the outside. MX Esteros is going to try and defend the inside. And MX Esteros just can't quite break late enough. And that has enabled Time Lord to just sweep around the outside and move himself up into 8th place, which is what he would have been wanting, or has been wanting, for a fair few laps now. And maybe he can... I mean, he's got a penalty of his own, don't forget. So it's a... He's not like the 3-second time penalty is going to work in his favour in terms of George in front of him. But, yeah, he's going to want to try and pull away as much as he can from the Aston Martin behind him to try and make sure he keeps that 8th place. But this is the sort of conundrum that... both Ajax and Specdodo are finding themselves in. It seems like Ajax here has the better pace around 3/4 of the lap compared to Koenigsegg. He just loses massively in terms of the momentum through lifting through Radion. If it weren't for that, he would be quite comfortably 2nd place, I would think. He just loses so much time. I mean, again, we'll hear it on board here as he negotiates Eau Rouge. Yeah, you could just see he's having to shift down really early just to try and gain that rear stability that enables him to go through Radion. And look, that gap was 7/10, now goes all the way up to just shy of 1.3 seconds. He loses nearly half a second, and there we are. He just, for all his troubles, he gets a 3-second time penalty, and that currently demotes him back behind Specdodo. GSR Riles isn't actually pulling the or catching up to this pack in front of him, so it looks like GSR Riles is destined for a 6th place finish, barring any form of issues. But it looks like Koenigsegg here is starting to catch the Ferrari of Aeromich. Psychopath just completely relaxed out in front, got a full bar of the RS, so if any situation comes where we have like a safety car or anything like that, or the field is bunched up, he is protected at all fronts. So yeah, Psychopath really comfortable out in front. But yeah, it looks like Koenigsegg is just starting to turn the screws on the Ferrari in front of him. He's just got the DRS there right about now, so Aeromich here might be under a little bit of pressure from the Haas driver behind him. Obviously, both drivers running their ERS pretty much empty, so both are in a very similar position. Specdodo, it seems to be building up some ERS, so obviously he's looking to try and gain a position here. In fact, actually, Ajax has lost the DRS ahead of him, so this definitely now hands the advantage over to the Williams, given that Ajax loses a lot of time through lifting through Radion, and now he won't have the DRS. I think next lap Ajax could be in real trouble of losing that P4 on track as well, and that'll enable Specdodo to try and chase a potential podium after such a poor start. A great qualifying, but poor start. He might be on for a possible podium here if he can get past the Mercedes of Ajax fairly quickly. But Koenigsegg now is really catching up to the Ferrari of Aeromich. The Ferrari out in front just hasn't quite got the pace at this stage of the Grand Prix, and that is leaving him vulnerable to the Haas behind him, although I think he's just managed to pull out enough in that sequence of corners to maybe just pull ahead of the DRS zone. we'll have to keep an eye out when they cross the activation point, which I believe is just before the bus stop chicane. And we've got a spinner. It's MX Testarossa, who was doing so well in terms of keeping the gap to Time Lord to try and offset his penalty. But unfortunately, he's spun, and that has really given Don't Blink now hope of improving his position a little bit. But yeah, Koenigsegg is just fallen outside of DRS, and not what he would have wanted. But Spegdodo here is really in with a shout of overtaking this Mercedes. We'll just see. Yeah, in fact, actually, Spegdodo there is having to lift off again a little bit as well, just to make sure he doesn't run into the back of the Mercedes. But yeah, Ajax there doesn't have any fight against that Mercedes, that Williams now. And Spegdodo has 3 racing laps after this one to try and chase down what was, after the first lap definitely, quite an unlikely podium. But the Aeromich just closing the gap out to Tycho out in front. Again, Tycho not using any ERS, definitely in a management, he's been in a management phase in this entire Grand Prix, apart from maybe the first 2 or 3 laps. He's just been managing this race really, really beautifully. And he looks to be extending his championship advantage by a fair bit, as he sees his closest rival, Don't Blink, currently occupying 10th place after, I'm assuming, some contact between Aeromich and himself. Unfortunately, I didn't quite catch it on the stream, but I saw they were battling, swapping positions, and then next thing I know, I see Don't Blink in the wall, so I can only assume there was some contact. Obviously, any potential incident will be reviewed after the race. So this battle right here might not even be for a legitimate podium, but I'm sure there weren't anything malicious in it, and we can just enjoy what we can out on the track, as Koenigsegg now has found himself within DRS range, which is absolutely crucial in his battle against not only for second place, but also keeping Spegdodo, or the Williams of Spegdodo, behind him, as he has slowly been creeping the past lap or two. Obviously, only 3 racing laps left, but Spegdodo really is on a bit of a charge. He's absolutely dropped the Mercedes of Ajax, so he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. But Koenigsegg was really thankful for that DRS, you feel like, as Spegdodo had closed that gap to about 1.5 seconds. Now, hopefully, Koenigsegg can try and keep within that DRS for the entirety of this, well, for the rest of this Grand Prix, as Testarossa picks up a 3-second penalty, which will demote him currently behind Don't Blink. So it is going to be Testarossa finishing 10th at this moment in time. But yeah, Koenigsegg will want to try and keep within the DRS for as long as possible, because he has got a charging Williams of Spegdodo behind him, of trying to put his last place on the podium under threat. It looks like Koenigsegg has managed to do this, certainly this lap, in terms of trying to keep him within the DRS, because look, Spegdodo closing the gap down to a 1.4 seconds. Obviously, most of that will be through battery usage. Spegdodo did save a little bit under when he was in the DRS range of Ajax. He's obviously burnt through most of that now. So, yeah, really critical lap this for Koenigsegg. It looks like he might have just dropped out of the DRS zone, which will be news welcomed by the Williams garage, as, yeah, it looks like he's not going to get DRS this range. It sounded like he's slightly lifted there as well, so maybe he's struggling with a little bit of tyre management. And, yeah, I mean, this is the penultimate lap, so we've only got one more racing lap to go. But, yeah, it's going to be very, very close here, it seems. It looks like Aeromich is fairly certain to finish second. I feel like he's had that covered for the majority of this Grand Prix. But it's just whether Koenigsegg can hold on for the final podium place. It's really, really close. It looks like, I mean, it's normally this sort of section of track where Specdodo seems to pull the gap back to Koenigsegg. So we'll see what this gap manages. Is 1.3 at the minute. Currently staying at 1.3. Koenigsegg has just dipped within DRS range of the Ferrari in front. But there we go. Specdodo 1.2. 1.3 again. So Koenigsegg doing a really good job here of trying to keep the Williams behind him away from DRS. He's actually just got within 9/10 of the Ferrari, but that gap again has dropped to just 1.2 seconds. This is going to be really intriguing on the final lap. It looks like Koenigsegg might have it covered, as he's currently within the DRS range of the Ferrari out in front, and that'll help him battle the potential fight for the last podium places. It looks like Tycho Path is just gearing himself up at a go for the fastest lap of the race on the last attempt. But yeah, Koenigsegg does have will have DRS going down this main straight, whereas Specdodo won't. So it looks like any potential last minute threat for the podium places for Specdodo has been sniffled out, and yeah, Koenigsegg doing a good job of just managing that gap. And yeah, it looks like Specdodo's opportunity there has fallen apart. But yeah, a race which has been quite brilliantly managed, it must be said, by Tycho Path out in front. Obviously has been leading for the entirety of the Grand Prix. Didn't really encounter that much issues to begin with. Led from the start and has never really looked back since. He's a driver who has been in fantastic form this year, as Don't Blink makes a last minute change of position on the last lap, moves himself up into 9th place. But yeah, it's been really plain sailing for the Mercedes driver out in front. Really, really good stuff from Tycho as he looks to take a massive leap towards retaining his title, as he's going to be pulling a massive points gap between him and Don't Blink this race. But here is your race winner for what has been an absolutely dominant drive. Tycho Path crosses the line and wins the Belgian Grand Prix. Aero-Mitch produces a brilliant drive to finish in P2. Koenigsegg also gaining places. He is qualified. He finishes in 3rd to round off the podium position. Specdodo finishes 4th. Good recovery drive after what was quite a terrible first lap. Ajax there could have definitely felt like more was on the table. Qualified a brilliant P2, but unfortunately for him, finishes in 2nd place. GSR Riles finishes in 6th. Ahead of Jordster in 7th. Time Lord takes the 8th place home with him. Don't Blink, after what was a weekend of ups and downs, finishes in 9th, and MX Testarossa rounds off the final points paying position. And that has been round 9 of the Racing League Grand Prix. Driver of the day, yeah, I think Mitch is probably definitely going to be up there, just due to his absolutely amazing start. Obviously started from 8th and was 3rd by, I think, the very first corner. Absolutely brilliant stuff from the Ferrari driver. And there is your official race classification. Tycho Path didn't quite manage to get fastest lap at the end, but nonetheless can still be pleased with his weekend. And yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff from most drivers actually on the grid out there today. Didn't have too many incidents. Had 1 or 2 incidents at the beginning, but yeah, there is your race official classification. Tycho Path taking the win, Aero-Mitch getting 2nd, Zig finishing in 3rd, Specdodo finishing in 4th, Ajax finishing in 5th, GSR Riles in 6th, Jordster in 7th, Time Lord in 8th, Don't Blink finishes in 9th, MX Testarossa finishes in 10th, and Kiwi, our only retirement from the Grand Prix, unfortunately for him, finishes in 11th. But yes, absolutely. I'm going to admit I didn't expect to be having this podium at the end of the race, particularly given how qualifying went. I think we're just waiting for Tycho to come into the party. But yeah, both Zig and Mitch, please make sure your audio is included so the stream can hear you. We'll start off with the driver who finished third. Zig, you must be absolutely brilliant. Well, must be pleased with a podium on this race. Obviously qualified fifth, did a really good qualifying session actually, finishing in fifth in the tricky conditions. Just have a quick chat about how your race went. Do you think third was probably the best you could have got? Do you think maybe you could have maybe challenged Mitch there for second at the end?
Yeah, I mean, third is an awesome uh, result after a few disappointing ones. Qualifying, I ran really low wings. I think that kind of hurt quali. But I was expecting to pass some people real quickly. But first few laps, Mitch had a monster of a start, and I had a good start for a change, and Mitch
Yeah.
just went past, and then I let Blink pass. I didn't uh, fight him hard because I just wanted to get back into DRS. The first two laps, I felt like I had no grip.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, after the stops, briefly jumped Ajax, but he got me again. But then I saw he was running a much higher wing setup.
Mhm.
But then Spectator jumped me, and I drained my ERS trying to pass them both, and then couldn't get close enough to pass Mitch. Um, but Mitch had tremendous space. I don't think even if I had ERS, I would have passed him.
Yeah. Well, as you've alluded to, it was a great start for both of you. Um, you were sort of in towards the sort of like fourth, fifth place for the majority of the race. Obviously, there was some contact or an incident, unfortunately, that I missed between Don't Blink and Mitch. That promoted you up into the podium places. Did you feel like at any point it was under threat? I know once Specdodo in the Williams eventually got past the Mercedes of Ajax, it was a bit of a tense towards the end where Specdodo
Yep.
just seemed to be catching ever so slightly. Was there any sort of worry on your end that you were going to lose that podium?
Not to Spectator, and the reason being he was faster overall, I think,
Hmm.
but he was running higher wings, so he was catching me about 3 or 4 tenths in sector two. But then, even with DRS, he was not getting closer, so I was not worried about him as long as I stayed ahead. Um,
Oh, all right. Fair
but
enough.
yeah, it was a strong race. I think from the top five, I think Tycho was in a different league, but
Yeah.
behind Tycho, I think it was pretty close. All about margins.
No, it was a great race from a pretty much everyone nearly involved, but definitely from you. So congratulations on the podium, absolutely thoroughly deserved. We're going to move on to the driver who possibly had the best start I think I've seen ever. Straight from, I think it was started P8, and I think you were third coming out of the first corner. I don't know if I catched it on stream. In all the melee in the first corner, but just first of all, talk us through that start, Mitch. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a start that good.
Uh, I don't really know what I did differently. I felt like maybe other people around me didn't have as good of a start as maybe they normally do. I could have just had a decent reaction. I got a little bit fortunate going into turn one. I'm not sure who it was, but somebody in front of me and to the right just kind of veered out to the left, almost at the apex, and um, I feel like Ocon at Hungary in that wet race. Like everybody just parted, and I think I had Zig still slightly ahead of me on the exit of the corner, but having the outside line, I got around him fairly easily. And we actually were in a party at the time, and I believe he said something like "Holy shit," which I figured was in reference to the fact that I had gotten by him by turn one. But yeah,
Yeah, it was an absolutely brilliant start, and from then on, you were constantly running in the podium places. You managed to get past the Mercedes of Ajax and was running second throughout the majority of the race. I believe at some point there was some sort of incident with Don't Blink that I'm assuming there was an incident. As like I said, unfortunately, I didn't catch it on stream.
He certainly seems to think so. I haven't watched it back yet. Obviously, I kind of squeezed him a little bit on the straightaway. I didn't think that was um, anything that I had done by the time I was on the straight was wrong. I left more than a car's width, but and then I jumped back to the racing line and I tried to brake late and leave him room. If I hit him, I didn't mean to, or if I didn't leave enough space, I obviously didn't mean to. I didn't feel anything on my steering wheel in terms of contact, but I'd like to see his POV. I was hoping you had caught it, but it's all right if you didn't.
I was too busy watching another battling unfold, just slightly behind, unfortunately. It was really bad timing. I was watching, I think it was Specdodo and the Mercedes of Ajax battling, and unfortunately I missed it. But I'm sure it'll get looked at in the stewards. It'll be looked after. But despite that, it was a really, really good race from you. Really good, solid pace. Obviously, after that incident, you found yourself in a fairly comfortable position. We saw a few times Koenigsegg just slightly creep into the DRS zone and possibly threat your second place. Was there any sort of point where you felt like you were going to be involved in a battle, or did you sort of like try and manage it best you could and always felt comfortable with your second place?
I definitely tried to manage it, and I would say that I was mentally preparing for a fight. At times I was trying to save my battery, and at other times I was trying to save my battery for the impending fight, and then at other times I was trying to dump my battery to make sure that if he made a tiny mistake, I think he did make a couple small errors that just like cost him a tenth or two, and at times, and we were both on the fringe, anywhere from like 0.8 to 1.1, so he didn't really give me a chance to relax for sure.
Well, as I said, it was a stunning race from both of you. I must admit, absolutely props to you on that front. I don't think we'll be getting Tycho in the party for some reason, so we'll just have to end it there. But
he said he had the dip, yeah.
Right, okay, fair enough. Yes. But no, absolutely, congrats to you two. Absolutely brilliant racing, thoroughly deserved. And that concludes this equal race in Belgium. We will be back tomorrow for the realistic tier, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully it provides just as much exciting and drama as this one has. And I will see you guys then. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.